Okay, this seminar that we're sharing on today is called Attitude Changes Everything. It either changes your life for better or for worse. And you're probably already aware of that. And I was aware of that. But I didn't know how to change it because I had too many emotions and too many beliefs and emotions pushed down because I was very much into looking good, keeping it together, holding it together, and making sure that I was doing the right thing. So I never gave myself permission to deal with my bad attitudes. I'd always feel guilty, bad, and responsible then. And I was always in denial if I did something wrong because I never wanted to feel bad again. Years and years later, I discovered that the wonderful counsellor, the one who's created, who knows me inside out, and you too, took me back to a memory when I was very tiny. It was actually in the womb, and I know that to be true because my mother confirmed everything I experienced 2 weeks later. And I remember how bad I felt in that experience. It was black, it was dark, I felt bad, I shouldn't be there, I wasn't wanted, I felt abandoned, etc. And to cut a long story short, I experienced, as I waited and I asked for the truth to be revealed, I experienced a light and a presence that dissolved all of those beliefs, all the emotions, and I felt utter peace, and I felt the absolute opposite of that. Now that happened maybe 10 years ago, but it changed my life in the present. It had also changed, because it changed my emotions that were constantly being triggered off. And with one thing or another, and I was trying to put the lid on it, because I had actually faced my feelings and I had, under his wonderful guidance, and faced my beliefs and had listened. What happened in my actual life 10 years ago, despite the fact this happened many, many years ago as a little baby, it totally changed my relationship. I wasn't wanting, needy, I didn't feel alone anymore, and I felt so fulfilled here that what was creating relationships problems and creating all sorts of bad attitudes for me, which I was struggling with all the time, attitudes of resentment. Anyone here ever had any resentment? Yeah, I was actually, I was unaware of that, but I was actually like a ball. Prior to that, I was a ball of resentment, but I didn't want to own it. I was a ball of, I don't know, frustration, because I figured if I did everything right and did the right thing, everything in my life would be okay. Anyone else ever felt like that? And of course it didn't. And so guess what? I'd get really cheesed off and I'd get frustrated and then I'd get resentful again. It would go round and round in circles. And then I would end up with something being triggered off, because this is prior to resolving it. And then all of a sudden, out of my mouth would come all of this stuff. It was a bad attitude, it was a filthy attitude. Anyone here ever had a filthy attitude? A filthy response to something where you all of a sudden burst out and you just react? That stopped happening completely after I came to such a place of peace and gave myself permission to be present to myself and present to all of my feelings and my thoughts under the guidance of love. Listen to the truth again and again and again. Anyway, that's for me, that's life-changing. And my attitudes just changed completely. And I was much more conscious and aware that I had the power of the one within me to help me when I was struggling with my feelings, come to that presence, to Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and tell him, unload, and then listen, which I say over and over again. And again and again and again, it would melt and my attitude would change. There's the most beautiful story I want to share with you about a guy whose mother was a prostitute and his father was a pimp, not a very good beginning either. And later on in life, he's had an accident with his foot and he had to have his foot cut off, had to have it amputated. And this is an example of somebody, I'm sure he had plenty of negative feelings and emotions, and maybe he had a lot of bad attitude to start with too. But maybe he realised that that didn't work and he needed to do something else. But through his life, he changed his perspective. He got a different way of what can I do? And when you ask that question, you start to see differently. And he actually was the first person to, as a result of that question, doors began to open and he was asked, because of his attitude, if he would have a prosthesis for his foot. And he became the first person to run an Olympic Games with that foot. So that's going from absolutely disastrous beginnings to overcoming. But a lot of it would have been because he asked the right question, he gained the right perspective, and he saw what he could do despite his background, and his whole life was amazing. What about me? I remember when I had this turnaround in my life about 35 years ago. I remember thinking, how can I get close to some of the family members? Because I was having a lot of conflict, and they had a very bad attitude towards me. They would set me up and just kind of tear me apart. But I decided that I wanted to change that. I'm thinking, what that is going on? And so what happened with that is that I asked wisdom, show me what's going on. And I was shown that I had a great big fat door open to everybody tearing me apart because I was doing it to myself. I had a very bad attitude towards myself, to an aspect of myself. And I was judging, criticising and condemning myself because I wasn't good enough, or I'd have high expectations, seeing I was kind of the saviour of everybody and everything else, which never works, by the way. It's not the way it's meant to be. So as I was shown to go back to each and every one of them, particularly those I was having, they were having really attitude problems with. I was having attitude problems with them, both back and forth. And I went back, and over a period of time, despite the fact that part of me felt like really they should be saying sorry to me, I went and asked them for forgiveness. I asked them for forgiveness for the one thing that I felt I could ask for forgiveness. And it would be just maybe a tiny thing. Maybe like in one of the cases with my sister, I'm an elder sister to her, and I said to her, look, I don't think I've ever really been present to you as an elder sister. I could have been there for you. Well, and I want to say, I'm sorry, that was it. Well, she used to, and she apologised later. She was one of the ones that was going at me as well as myself. And her whole attitude changed towards me just because I wanted change in my attitude, changes in their attitudes. So I just asked, I went back. That was so simple. I did that over and over again with about 4 or 5 people. And I made sure I closed the door, that I no longer judged and condemned myself, judged my actions and learnt from them, but I never judged or labelled myself again after that. Recognising always to listen to the one who has the truth, his perspective. And everything changed. The people that used to have such bad, filthy attitudes with me just began to change, respect me, because I began to respect myself. They began to change just in the way they spoke to me, their attitude towards me, because I changed my attitude towards them and to myself, as I just said a moment ago. There was another example of I'm going back into a bad attitude of a story with you may have heard about it. It was on the news about a young man killing his mother, wealthy family. And later on, it was discovered that he did that because he was filthy with his mother. He had a bad attitude toward his mother because he believed. Attitude comes from what you believe. He believed that his mother neglected him, favoured the others in the family, treated him badly, and he just got full of rage, anger, murder, because it happened again and again and again, and it built up and built up and built up. And I thought, what if he had some opportunity to realize that he could actually sit with himself and be present to the attitude he had towards his mother and how he felt. And listen to all those feelings. It kind of gets released as you listen to them. And then listen to the perspective of the one who wanted to replace his mother, the one who has everything, who's already within us. Just reveal his light and presence to fill him up so he would be satisfied about his worth and value. His attitude would have changed. And I believe from my experience and other people's experience, it gives the opportunity for the other person's attitude to change. You don't need it anymore because you don't need them to change because you're okay the way you are. So where does attitude come from? It comes from what you are feeling. Where do the feelings come from? It starts with what you're believing. Just an example of that young man killing his mother, which is pretty dramatic. Road rage is another one. It's because of what people are thinking. And they're projecting their thinking, and their thinking, stinky thinking I call it, creates stinky feelings, and it creates a really bad attitude. I remember experiencing road rage with one person, and I actually prayed for them because I felt quite centered at peace most of the time. I think I know it's theirs, it's not mine. So I actually said a prayer for them as I went past. And then not long after that, the next day, I did something that I could have caused an accident. And the person who was involved behind me just waved at me like, it's okay, it's all right. And I thought, what a different attitude rather than that road rage attitude because of unresolved feelings and emotions and beliefs. Probably nothing to do with the road stuff. It was to do with all the other stuff he hasn't resolved. And what a difference to this person who had such an amazing attitude with me. Okay, so I'm going to take you through, to gain a good attitude, I guess what I'm really saying to you is, if it was me, if you find you've got a bad attitude towards something, go back and honour yourself and just listen to your feelings and emotions under the guidance of love, which we're going to do now. And you're going to have, well, it's kind of like fun, but it's a really releasing thing for you and a releasing thing for others through this meditation and reflection. And you will feel better just by listening to those feelings and emotions and the beliefs. Your beliefs, if only the world knew, your beliefs about your worth and value create all the negative feelings and emotions. Your beliefs about you, your worth and value, I'm not good enough, I'm an idiot, it's my fault, I'm useless, that, when you start to believe and entertain that, creates all that. Now, you might have been labelled it over and over again by family or teachers or in the background, but it can be dealt with as you recognise the feelings and emotions, express them, which we're going to do now, understand the beliefs, and then you listen to another perspective. So what I'm going to do now is take you through a 3-way perspective exercise. And after this, you should have quite a shift. And you can do this anytime you find you've got attitude problems. Whenever you find you have feelings and emotions that are creating a bad attitude in you, and you don't want to have that bad attitude, this is the way to go, back into the feelings and emotions, back into the beliefs. And then later on in life, just do what I did. Every day, spend time being still, being present to your feelings and thoughts, so they don't build up like a bomb and go off like an explosion like I used to. And allow the truth to be spoken into those places, and practice this 3-way meditation. Make attitude of fun, and once you get unlocked, it can actually be fun working with it, changing a bad attitude to a good attitude, because you get a different perspective. You get the truth. Okay, so just settle down. I'm just going to take you through this meditation reflection. And I know there are people who said, I can't meditate, I've tried it. This is quite different. And all you have to do is what you did before, and that is to sit back as though you're watching a television screen. I invite you to close your eyes. This is to get you unblocked, to make a pathway so you, despite lockdown, despite what's going on, you can feel peace and presence. Get insight, clarity, and it'll change your attitude to a GA. Now again, as you look into your mind's eye, as you settle down, like a television screen, I'm going to ask the one who created you, the wonderful counselor, to bring into your mind the people who have had bad attitudes with you, or you've got a bad attitude with them. Unresolved feelings and emotions. So just look into your mind's eye, and the wonderful counselor often brings in people. Just look at them and look into their face and into their eyes. And as a result of their attitude towards you, I'm going to ask the wonderful counselor, as you look at them and look into their eyes, tell them how it makes you feel when they have a bad attitude or have had a bad attitude towards you. Wonderful counselors show everyone here how they have felt. This is getting in touch with your heart. You'll reveal the feelings and tell the people in your mind's eye you feel resentful, angry. This is giving yourself a voice. It stops depression. Look into their eyes and tell them. Tell them, wonderful counsel, to show everyone as a result of the bad attitude, show everyone here what sort of worth and value. Like, I'm not good enough, it's my fault, I'm useless, I'm an idiot. If you've been made to believe that about yourself, look at that person or people and tell them, as a result of what you've done and said, this is how it makes me feel, this is what I'm left with believing. I'm not good enough, I'm an idiot, inadequate, responsible, guilty, nothing. Just look at them and tell them, go for it. I can't tell you how healing this is for them and for you. And as you look into their eyes and their face and tell them, this is actually going to be good for them too, this is good, I'm going to ask the one who created you, who's love, so it can be released in you, how would each one of you like to express your feelings of anger or resentment to the person physically? This is a way of releasing the anger in a way that won't harm anyone, but it releases you so you never do it in the future. So look at them, and under the guidance of the one who knows you, look at them. And I want you to feel free. As it comes up, that desire, give them a hit in the face, a kick in the shins, a hit on the head. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you want to murder them. Just express it to them. I don't care if you want to put your hands around their throat. Do it in your mind's eye. Get it up and get it out. It's dangerous in you. Get it up, get it out, and do it. In your mind's eye, never in actual person, but in your mind's eye now. This releases you from depression, oppression. I don't care what you do to them. It doesn't harm them now. It's actually releasing you, and you won't harm them in future. And if you need to keep screaming at them or hitting them on the head or whatever you need to do, do it. As long as you need to do it, this is giving yourself a voice. And look at their face and their eyes as you do it. This is your perspective, the first perspective. And you can do this meditation exercise anytime you get angry or get hurt. Now, look at them now. Look at their face, their eyes. And I'm going to ask the one who created the whole, or created them, I'm going to ask him, what would they say back to you? Now look at them and allow them to have a response. I'm going to ask wonderful counselors, show them how would they respond? What would they say? Now listen, listen, look at their face. Look at their face. And if you've gone blank or dark, that just means it's memory and we'll deal with that later. But just look at their face now. And I'm going to ask the third perspective. That's their perspective. Wonderful counsellor, Spirit of Truth, I ask you now to show everyone here. What else do you want to show them? Give them clarity now from your perspective, what they would say back to each one here. Or you want to show the people on the screen here about attitude. How do they feel now? Look and see how you feel now. Notice if there's a shift towards that person or those people. Notice if your attitude, your feelings and emotions have changed. Notice if you've gained an insight to them that you didn't have before. And what does that do to you? How do you feel now towards them? And before we close and finish this reflection, this exercise meditation, ask you, wonderful counselor, Spirit of Truth and Love, is there anything else you want to say to anyone here about the circumstances, about people that are listening to this, or the person in the situation? So allow yourself to listen to the Spirit of Truth and wisdom so you can get free despite what's happened. Notice if you feel a shift or not. If you're stuck, that means it's not just this, it's triggering off unresolved memories that need a full voice, which we can facilitate later if you wish. So gently bring you back into the room. And I just want to say, you can do that anytime, but only do it, I recommend, the one who's got the best attitude out and has got so much mercy and insight and clarity, but also has a justifiable anger. Always do it under the guidance of the wonderful counsellor, the Holy Spirit, Jesus. He knows what it's like to have suffered, but he rose above it. He wants you to do the same. So anytime you feel off-centre with somebody, your attitude starts to change, or they've got bad attitude, go aside. Honour yourself. Respect yourself, and others will respect yourself. Remember, treat others how you want to be treated, and what you do to others will be done to you. So be kind to yourself. Now you're a child in the universe, learning, growing. What can I learn from this? What can I do from this? And that can change your attitude and your perspective. It'll change how you feel. And that vibe between you and the other person, other people, will just change like it has in my life. Respect, whatever you are doing to yourself will come back to you more often than not. It didn't in Jesus' case. Sometimes it did, sometimes it doesn't. Same in our lives. You will have trouble in this world, but I will be with you. And another thing, please, so that you don't get yourself stuck in a bog of yuck, give up complaining. Complaining, that's what they did when they came out into the desert. And I think it was supposed to take 40 days. It took 40 years. They got stuck because they started complaining. And it says the destroyer came and destroyed them. Complaining destroys you. That's a bad, leads to a bad attitude. Instead, go back and honor yourself like you would a child. How do I feel as a result of what they did? What do I think and what do you say, wisdom? Okay, that's taking what I call true responsibility. I shared this with a friend of mine recently. I did it with her. I just want to say, just to lighten it up for a little bit just before we finish the talk and the reflection meditation. And she said, oh, my daughter, she said, I don't know how Christian she is. She's a good woman, such a good woman. Anyway, she said, she talks, she said, this is my toilet exercise. She said, every time I get upset over the top, I'm going to scream at somebody. She said, I just go rushing into the toilet and I do my little exercise, the 3-way perspective exercise. And she said, I just feel better. I come out and I have a different attitude, different perspective. It helps calm down rather than it flowing all over the top of her kids. So share it with other people. It's very safe. It's very freeing. And it's truly taking honouring responsibility for yourself and your feelings and your thoughts. A lot of our thoughts and beliefs about ourselves are lies. We've accumulated them over the years and we've believed them. That's what our agape encounter is about, encountering the truth and true freedom and the one who brings it. Thank you for listening.